You know, we all think our modern times can be pretty tough, but what if I told you there was a year in human history so unbelievably bleak, it completely rewrites the definition of a bad year? A year when the sun literally just vanished.
So what was the absolute worst year to be alive? Well, according to historians and scientists, the answer is a year I'm willing to bet you've never, ever heard of. It wasn't during a famous war or a plague you've read about in textbooks. It was something much, much stranger.
To find it, we have to go way back, over 1,500 years to be exact, to the year 536 AD. This is the year that many experts now agree was probably the single most catastrophic period for the human race, a time when it felt like the world itself was breaking apart.
And look, this isn't just some wild theory. As the Harvard historian Michael McCormick puts it, it was one of the worst periods to be alive, if not the worst year. And that conclusion is based on a mountain of hard evidence, from accounts written at the time to cutting-edge scientific analysis. We are talking about a genuine global catastrophe.
So what on earth could have happened back in 536 to earn it such a horrifying title? Well, it all started with something that appeared in the sky, and it blocked out the one thing we all need to survive. Imagine this. Without any warning, a strange, dark fog starts to spread across Europe, the Middle East, and parts of Asia. People who were alive at the time wrote that the sun gave off this weak, ghostly light, no brighter than the moon. The sky was just stuck in this terrifying, permanent twilight. Animals were panicking. There are even reports of birds just falling from the sky. A deep, chilling darkness just settled over the entire world.
And this wasn't just a bad day or some weird weather for a week. Can you even imagine living like this? This dim, cold world lasted for a year and a half. For 18 solid months, humanity was trapped in a global dusk. But here's the thing. That constant darkness, that wasn't even the worst of it. Nope, that was just the beginning. It was the first domino to fall in a catastrophic chain reaction that brought civilization to its knees.
It's a pretty straightforward and terrifying chain of events. First, the sun's light gets blocked. That means no warmth. Temperatures just plummeted. I mean, we're talking about historical records of snow falling in the middle of summer. No sun and no warmth means no crops. Agriculture just collapses everywhere. And when the food runs out, you get mass famine. And when people are starving, society itself begins to completely unravel.
The accounts that have survived from this period are just horrifying, the stuff of nightmares. The rule of law? It vanished. People were driven to the absolute extreme to survive. We're talking widespread reports of violence, of murder for just a scrap of food. It even got so grim that cannibalism became a reality for some.
So you've got this perfect storm of cold, starvation, and total societal breakdown. The human cost of this disaster, which stretched on for years, is on a scale that's honestly hard to even comprehend.
I mean, just look at these numbers. The best estimates suggest the world's population at the time was around 500 million people. After this calamity, it was cut by more than half. Think about that for a second. More than half the people on the entire planet perished.
And just when you think it could not possibly get any worse, it does. What was left of humanity, weakened, starving, was the perfect breeding ground for disease. And sure enough, a devastating plague broke out. It ripped through the shattered world, and in some areas, it killed up to 90% of the people who had managed to survive the famine. It was the final, brutal blow. For centuries, nobody knew what had caused the mysterious fog of 536. People thought it was a curse, a punishment from the gods. It was a total mystery. A 1,500-year-old cold case that seemed like it would never be solved. That is, until our time.
The crucial clue, it turns out, was found frozen in time. Scientists used this incredible technique where they drilled deep into glaciers to pull out these things called ice cores. And here's the cool part. Each layer of ice is like a perfect little time capsule. It traps particles from the atmosphere for the year that it formed, creating a frozen historical record. So they analyzed the ice layer from the spring of 536 AD. And what did they find? The smoking gun. Teeny tiny, microscopic particles of volcanic glass. This was the definitive proof. It meant the atmosphere at that exact time had been filled with volcanic debris.
So the culprit was a single, colossal volcanic eruption somewhere in the northern hemisphere. This explosion was so violent, so massive, that it blasted an enormous cloud of ash and sulfur high up into the atmosphere. That cloud was so big that it spread out across the globe, creating a veil that was thick enough to shroud the entire planet and block out the sun.
So when you think about it, the absolute worst year in recorded history wasn't caused by a war or a virus or anything humans did. It was just a single powerful act of nature, a geological event that changed the course of history forever. It's a pretty stark reminder of how vulnerable we really are, which leaves us with one final and pretty chilling question. Could something like this happen again?